Where are our chairs? Workshop chairs. I would like you to come here now to present. Shortly, everybody has 5 minutes to explain what your discussions main topics were. So, hey, welcome, Gary. Where's Gary? And Sawyer. Yeah. So I hope you can. So, Trine, would you like to start?
Yes, dying to start.
Great.
Thank you. So I have not been preparing a 5-minute kind of talk about my workshop, which I think we discussed how media can and what they cannot do. And if we want media to be useful, then we have to mediate media. So we have to discuss with teachers, if we want teachers to take lessons or make lessons more interesting by also teaching with the help of media. So I was introducing this cross-media project, which was carried out in Estonia, which I mentioned earlier in the morning, which is called BRAVE, and was aiming at lifting people's barriers. Barriers should be lifted or demolished, but so that they would be empowered to make their choices free of gender stereotypes, their choices in career and education free of gender stereotypes. And since it doesn't, I think, necessarily help if you tell a person you have to empower, you have to now feel empowered. So this TV series was helping people to notice how it is so important that you keep true to what you want to do, and how you can maybe notice other people better doing what they want to do, and didn't really do that much job. This TV series didn't do really that much to show how your organizational level and society level factors could be changed or should be changed. So it wasn't really critiquing this part in society that creates us with the stereotypical beliefs in me, but they were telling me how to persist. So we discussed. It was really good to hear from the participants, their experiences, their examples from others, and their thoughts, how this could be done otherwise. And just I felt it was so interesting for me too.
Yeah, okay, thanks. Would be great if you can send some notes about the session to Susanna, so because we would like to put these workshop results in our web pages. Yeah, thanks. Okay, Emily. Hold on, this one.
Could I just make one comment about broadcast media? This is an initiative that the BBC did a few years ago. Sorry,
Hold on.
So the BBC, the chief executives had noticed or been made to notice that all of the experts that they have on when they do an interview on TV or radio appear to be men. So they did a study and they just counted up the number of male experts they had in a period of time, and it was 95%. It was ridiculous. So again, I always like data. They had the data that all the experts they had on were men. All the viewers, all the listeners, whatever the channel, everybody was hearing men are experts. And so they brought an initiative called the Expert Women course, and they advertised it very widely, and they asked women of all different fields to upload a 90-second video just on their phone, a couple of little questions they had to answer. And a friend sent it to me, and I was very last minute, I put something in, I had no expectation of getting selected, and I was selected. We went on a one-day training course at the BBC, and the producers said to us, when we ask a woman, we searched you out, we want you and your expertise and your voice, women were most likely at that point to say, oh no, I don't want to accept your invitation, but I'll give you my less qualified, less articulate male colleague to do it instead. So they realised it was a confidence issue. They were asking, but they were getting no all the time. And there were 60 of us in the room, and they said, there are 60 of you here. Hands up if you think we had about 60 applications for this day. 60 hands went up. They said, okay, let us be very clear. We had over 2,000 applications. We picked you because you were the best. We watched 4,000 90-second video clips. So when we call you up and say, will you come on TV tomorrow, just say yes, and we'll support you for the rest. They then did the study again, and the gender statistics have changed quite dramatically. So it's the data, make the measurement, move the initiative, and help.
Thanks. Okay, Gary, just in time because you are next. So we asked you to present what your discussions were in the workshop and kind of summarize. You have 5 minutes.
5 minutes, right?
Yeah.
That's a long time to summarize.
Yeah.
So, thank you, Scotty. I ran a workshop which is up there called Gender Equality in Academia and Research. And I presented our programme, which is the Untitled Chapter, which we run in the UK, Ireland, and Australia. And we talked about what it is in terms of how you systematise an approach to progressing gender equality within universities. I think we had a wide-ranging discussion in my group. I had planned an activity which was for people who worked in universities to think about, can you benchmark your university with what other universities are doing? And I think what we discussed, I suppose sadly, was that there are common challenges across different universities and different cultures around gender equality. So we talked about gender stereotypes and how that affects men and women, or women in terms of promotions. We talked about how that affects women candidates when it comes to thinking about what does career progression look like. We had a frank discussion about the hardness, perhaps, of the academic world, in the sense that it's still a very heroic model, so people expected that if you were an academic, you don't have a life outside of academia, you work 16 to 18 hours to become that academic, and how different that is from industry, for example. So we did a comparative talking about, actually, are there things we can learn from industry? But I think what was important for us in terms of our discussion was actually, what might be interesting as an approach of different universities is to take something that we've done, which is to systematize an approach. And I shared a benchmarking tool where I had 16 different activities that universities can benchmark against about whether they're doing these things. And that you really, really need the data to kind of drive forward change. I think, especially in the university sector, where everything has to be evidence-based, everybody wants to know what your evidence is. But it's important not just to look at the quantitative data, so the numbers, but the qualitative data as well, so the lived experiences. And what we were talking about was, we may see changes of number over time. So I'll give you the example that in the UK, for example, we have seen the number of women professors go up. We have seen the number of women rectors and vice chancellors go up. But my concern is that it's because there has been a push, and this is changing now, but if attitudes don't change over time, we will see that drop off again. So how do we start to think about that and learn from that? Is that a fair summary for the people who are in my room? Great. Excellent.
Thank you. And if if you could also send a little summary about those notes to Susanna. So
yes, definitely. Yeah, I can send the benchmarking tool.
Yes,
yeah.
Correct. Yeah, thanks. Okay, thanks. Then next, I think it was Emmy's.
So hello, my name is Emmi Juutilainen. I'm from Aurora's network that is administered by the Federation of Finnish Graduate Women. And in Aurora's network, we are organizing work-related mentoring for women with immigrant background. And we had an excellent talkative workshop. There was so much talk and so much knowledge about employment of women. We were looking a little bit like statistics and why it is, we were thinking why it's more difficult for women with immigrant background to find work in Finland. And one really crucial thing that came up is that there's a lack of evaluation the decrease from abroad, like when you're going to see the employment officers. And that's a really crucial thing that should be fixed in Finland, like immediately. And I think the officers are actually doing something about it at the moment. One thing that how we can break the barriers to employment is to help people to network, and we were thinking how to, like in concrete way, how to help immigrant women in that. And there was own communities were mentioned, like churches, for example, places where to meet people, and also like you have to be aware what are the networks and how to use them, and also teach this to the women who are moving here. This other. Thank you. Any questions? Okay.
Okay. Also, you can give your notes to Susanne. Okay. Great.
Okay, hello, I'm Anne Turunen, and I was sharing the workshop about share your stories. We were discussing mainly about women changing their careers and choosing non-typical working fields for women. We were actually concluding the workshop that we need to find some tools to recognize our skills in order to be able to strengthen them and be more self-confident to sell ourselves to the new fields of work also. And then we were discussing a lot about role models, that there are many women working on STEM field of work, but the image might be that you really need to be a superwoman to have that kind of occupation. So we would need like more real-life role models in order to have more courage to enter those non-typical work fields. Also, the media affects the attitudes, and unfortunately, mostly it's like that the men are more visible at the STEM work fields. And one thing that was arising is the salary. It's said that men at the STEM field, they earn even 500 euros more than women. So we should demand more pay actually, and find courage to do that. Then we had a long discussion about networking and partners, how women could actually use them on their own benefit. And international organizations and NGOs generally, because if you're working for an NGO, you can learn new skills which you can also exploit at your work life. So for example, if you are not dealing with finances at your work, you can do that working for an NGO, and that kind you can acquire some new skills. You maybe can transfer to your work life, and this might give you also courage to enter those non-typical fields of work. And also there was mentioned a concept of job shadowing or sort of adults' work-life practice. So maybe this kind of concept would help women to enter those non-typical fields if we had a chance to go and try. How does it work? Can we manage there? Do we have the skills that are needed there? But the conclusion is that believe that your skills matter and your work skills are advanced for you. Use your new contacts, your networks, and ask for mentoring if that is needed. It's totally allowed nowadays and very recommendable way to learn new skills and get encouragement. Thank you.
Thanks. And final, Joya, please.
Our workshop is 5 women in STEM. In STEAM, we discussed a lot of problems, which we put here, in here. It's external and internal problems of women in STEM. And our aim was to find some common problems which can be put in some very practical projects, international projects, cross-boundary projects of Baltic women in STEM. And we put there a few problems. First problem is how to teach teachers who work in STEM subjects at schools, at universities. Then the problem of motivating girls, encouraging girls to go to STEM. And the problem of announcing women in STEM like a problem. It's very important, for example, for Russia. And then we decided, had a discussion about possible projects. We proposed a few projects that can be discussed at the cross-boundary project and can apply for funding to different funds. First one is posters that can be designed for schools in different countries, Baltic countries, in Finland, in Lithuania, in Estonia, in Russia, where we can put the names and the stories, for example, yes, inspiration, career stories of women in STEM. We can start from women from our countries to translate those stories in different languages and to put these posters to our schools and see what can be the circumstances. I mean, what will be next? For example, I know that in Russia some groups, social groups, will fight against it. Why women? Why not only women? Why not men? But it can be very good stories, like an example, which can, as you told, inspire some girls to go there. The second thing we can do is a site where we can put those stories, motivating stories, with concrete accounts of people, if they are telling about women who live now and who can share, who can answer the questions which girls can ask them through socials. So it's very important to put the names of very concrete women who can help, not only women who inspire and that they go to another conference and inspire there, but they can collaborate, they can communicate with the girls. And we can create some complex project about creating a scientific forum. It can be both scientific and social, scientific and women's forum, where we can discuss very concrete, very practical issues due to different types of sciences, different types of technological professions, engineering and math and arts as well. And then there we can create some project that can solve social problems, not only social, educational, scientific problems in our countries. It can be a forum, maybe not next year, but next 3 years, as a big forum where women who are scientists would like to go, would like to have their voices to be heard. So I think that our session was very practical. I'm very grateful to all the women who participated. Thank you very much for your opinion and very excellent work. Thank you.
Thank you. And also, if you can share the notes. Thanks. Thank you, everybody, all the workshop members also, and chairs. And now we have coffee break from 2:30. Come back to here for our other main topic, but now coffee is served upstairs at just behind the big auditorium and the workshop.
Kato niinku dialla, missä näkyy se. Tässä on se dian näkyviin. Kato kun oli
Joo.
etäopistoilla, niin sen kansidian. Kamera vähäksi aikaa pois, niin täytyy tsekata yksi asia.
You mean why are well, it is understood that very widely, like create something, like creating work, like designing something that It's a part of our state, but when we are talking about Russian, these art help us teach them more. Like you know, designing some of your art.
You must become you are making a film. You are making. I have a music. You are admin paper students making PhD. International so we have and they are doctors. They are making generally from another country, the Treaty of Poland, the French direction, and another. It's great.
in the Netherlands. I haven't seen it yet.
For us, Dr. One is a song. Nothing else. Dr. One, writing, making the research for the government.
And update that.
This is like that's there, and I think the only more now difficulty I have not there is to go from the airport to the airport. Because nobody is speaking French or English. I remember that.
Yes. Yeah, but you have a Google map.
But in Saint Petersburg, it's more difficult because they don't understand the same.
Oh, okay.
We will meet you and we will accompany you as much as you want. We would love to do that because we could
For us, for me, it wasn't fit to have an organization in Russia. It was a necessity. And all what you said, I can help you for science because for the consumer, I'm doing that licensing and you ask me to come. Maybe I can organize, even if it's not in the session of conference of NGO, I need to see if I can organize something. Even the important is not for the people, we don't get to program, and then to do it, people who are in the view of the consumer. Right. So I
Tämä pikkuesitys, katsotaanko joo, kato, sinä, Sori, olet tikkua kaikki.
Painattu juttu, että vaikka vähän sattuu, niin mä olen...
Mä olin itse ajamassa Painuissa, vaan just siellä pimeässä, niin kun apua sieltä tulee viesti.
Joo, en peru, ei. Niin se on Painuissa, okei. Mä en sanonut, mä en vaan. Joo. Just kyllä. Se on ok. Ja tuolta ollaan se mitäs vastaa. Kyllä tullaan näkemään julkista. Ota PDF, että se muuten heittää ne, joo. Se heittää muuten ne fontit sinne sun tänne. Yes. Siinä nyt on. Joo, siinä vaan se. Ja senhän saa laittaa sitten jakoon, joskin mulla kaikki kuvia, niin kuin noin. Joo, tai lähinnä laittaa siihen, että kaikissa kuvissa ei lue noita niin tekijöitä tai sinne lukee niin pienellä, että ei kukaan saa selvää sen. Ei ole copyright-ongelmia, jos joku haluaa käyttää. Niin välillä se aina tekee tämän.
Sitä sulkee toi niin, se ostaa Appalea se ei ole.
Järki aineet tekee.
Siis tää koko homma antaa järkeä. Mä olin tässä eturivissä, eikö niin?
Joo, kyllä.
Onko tässä
Ei ole mitään, ihan. Sitten mä minkä vaan.
Mä lataan nimittäin puhelinta. Töpseli. Mistä löytyy? Tuohon on näköjään tuohon tuotu. Onko siellä ylhäällä töpseliä? On. Hyvin yksinkertainen. Mä en tähän tuo, ettei se ota jotain.
Ei, mitä mä tein? Joo. Joo.
Haluatko sä itse vielä hän tässä?
Joo, mielellään. Sitten se menee oma yritys oikein. Vähän seikkailee eri kuvien kanssa.
Joo, mä tulen laittaa tässä.
Joo.
Saara, anteeksi vielä.
Joo.
Täällä on tämä, että sä saat itse
Vaihtua.
halutessasi.
Vai tuliko mikki päähän vai onko se?
Mikki ei tule päähän, vaan tässä on
Hyvä.
Joo.
Mistä se striimi löytyy parhaiten? Meillä joku kysyi sitä.
Anne, tiedätkö sä mistä se striimi
löytyy parhaiten?
En osaa vastata tuohon.
Kauheeta. No selitä.
Varmaan sieltä, että mä leikkaisin, että se Facebook-tapahtuma, niin siellä on varmaan linkki siihen, ellei se ole siellä Facebookissa itsessään. Se on mun veikkaus. Saada täältä tieto.
Okei, joo. Eli haluaisin laittaa linkin sitten, mutta mistä mä löydän linkin?
Ottakas nyt, kun näitä linkkejä on sitten Linnon-sivulla ja ne on se tapahtuma Facebook-sivulla. Ja
Nyt mä oon tapahtumaan Facebook.
ja sitten mä oon jakanut sitä aika monenkin paikkaan.
Tässä tämä näkyy.
Joo, mutta sitten niin siellä jossakin pitäisi lukea se, että kun et pysty päästä paikan päälle, niin sitten siellä oli se linkki. Jos se pystyttiin. Että ne olisi tuolla linkkuja.
Tuossa. Tässä.
Joo, että onko se olisi, jos nyt täytyy katsoa, että nämä koska oli aamupäivä riittää, iltapäivä tulee erittäin kattaa. Tämä on aamu.
Joo.
Okei. Sitten se tulee se toinen. Ja löytyy sitten noin 2 minuuttia.
Hyvä. Kiitos.
Mä oon jakanut sitä niin paljon, että mä olet tiennyt.
Tuletko vielä kahville?
Ei tarvitse, ei voi äsken tuumassa. Niin.
Joo, siinä on ensin Minu ja Harri.
Oh, it's not here. I think I've seen this in Australia. Ele vai jogar bem filmes, que vai ter esse pessoal.
Niin,
samoja asioita tulee samaten. Minua olikin täytetty paljon. Niin, huomenasta juomasta.
oli se milloin kanssa kotiin?
Mä tein vasta huomenna iltapäivänä.
Joo, mä milloin kanssa iltapäivänä.
Mulla vasta silloin oli 22.
Niin.
Mutta hyvin mennä.
Oliko tätä tulossa päivällä? Oo. Ota se tulossa sille päivällä. Päivällä. Oo.
Joo, kyllä. Mutta sä tuut, joo. Joo, kyllä. Tuolla kyllä syyntiä, kun se on joo, ei ole pitänyt syödä sitä harvinaista, mutta mä ajattelin, että voi ylipäänsä. Tuli syötyä vähän liikaa. Täytyy käydä kävelemässä tässä liikaa sitten. Mittari on sanonut, että vähän leipä liikkeelle. Alkoi käskyttää, että nyt vähän liikkeelle.
Miten? Tarvitsetko? Ei, siis mä en tiedä sitä mitenkään erityisesti loukanneen, mutta näin pääs käymään. Eli mä voin.
Ladies, can you go and sit down? We would like to continue.
Joo, mulla on aina tämmöinen se ei osaa
Okay, ladies, I know you are very talkative, but we can continue our discussions a little bit later because we have still the schedule we must follow. So, this gender equal things, we are now a little bit changing the point of view. We are going to continue with our Baltic Sea team, and we still think that this is also gender equality related topic. We shall have the panel discussion, but first we shall have two keynotes, and audience is possibly will have possibility to make questions during the discussion. So let's first have these two keynotes and then continue with the discussion. Let me first introduce Saara Kankarinta from Baltic Sea Action Group.
Hello everyone. As you can see, I'm involved in many things. Right now I'm speaking as a chair and the co-founder of the Baltic Sea Action Group. I'm also involved in many companies. I founded two companies, Soil Food for regenerative agriculture and Q Power for renewable energy. I'm on board member in Sulapak, replacing plastic with biodegradable materials. I'm owner of the Gulkruna Harbour, which is small harbour in the Baltic Sea, and then we also own the oldest manor in Finland, Krigia Farm, and I'm involved in many networks. All these are tools for the environmental work. And then also, besides the official side, of course, there's the most important work that we have, or role that I have. There's my family. We start sailing always in April or March, so it's a little bit like winter sailing. And I have 3 kids, 6, 7, and 8 at the moment, and 2 dogs, and a husband. The kids are with their husband here in Helsinki, so I just hope that they don't hear me because they're all over here. The VSAG Foundation, Baltic Sea Action Group, as you can hear from the name Action, we try to push forward action to save the Baltic Sea. But we have a holistic approach and tangible actions. I will tell you shortly about the projects or the biggest focus that we have in the work. But we're independent, we work completely with donations and then external project funding. And we're a little bit over 10 years. Well, that's my job and also my call in this life to think about the future of the Baltic Sea. Even more that, nowadays when we talk really a lot about the climate change, and everyone knows that at the moment climate change is mentioned to be the biggest threat to the Baltic Sea or to the well-being of the Baltic Sea. It used to be eutrophication, which is still a severe problem, but the climate change does affect the eutrophication, so in a bad way they do effect to each other. Oops. This is a picture from, it's not a picture. There was a picture of the harbor, the Gullkrona harbor. There's the again. Okay. Yay. So as said, the climate change will probably bring more eutrophication, changes in flora and fauna, and the ecological imbalance. It's not a nice story nowadays, but this I have to say that this is the way it goes. Okay, I'll use it this way. As the problems are interconnected, so has to be the solutions as well. So this is one principle in our foundation, that we need to engage as much as we can from the problems with build solutions with the climate, biodiversity and eutrophication of the Baltic Sea involved. If I think about the Earth, we're in so deep crisis in many ways, climate, loss of biodiversity, the Baltic Sea. We don't have time to solve each one of them one by one. We need to combine those as much as we can. One major focus is that in the foundation we're protecting the underwater biodiversity. We have a voluntary program for the protection of underwater biodiversity. And why biodiversity? Whether we talk about the water or terrestrial ecosystems, biodiversity is the cornerstone of all life. So as humans, when we do not take it seriously, that we're all the time collapsing of the biodiversity, and we're causing it to collapse. We're playing this game in a very stupid way. We're pulling the lowest trick. And we're the ones who are the losers in that game. Another major focus that we do with the BSHE Foundation is related to the agriculture. Agriculture is the biggest emission source for the eutrophicating emissions. And agriculture is also a key topic when talking about climate change. So we have built a systemic platform where we have real farmers, we have business, retailers, and many other business areas related to agriculture. We have science, a huge amount of scientists working to tackle the soil carbon sequestration specific questions in order to verify the soil carbon sequestration to make the policy change. And why do we care about the soil? Because if the soil is in good condition, it does not give out emissions to the Baltic Sea. It stores carbon, and if it stores carbon, it has a good biodiversity in it. Biodiversity is a means in this project, not just a goal. So this is going very well. We just had a funding from the strategic research of 8 million. Only a little slice of it came to our foundation, and most of it we directed to the researchers and different operators. But we are the ones who are running the platform, and I'm the chair of this initiative. And why do we have to have a systemic change in the agriculture if we talk about the Earth and the Baltic Sea? Well, it comes to the tackling many problems at once and also building sustainable and regenerative solutions. So regenerative agriculture would partner with nature instead of competing with nature. That is what we do at the moment. I have a farm as well, so I do know the farming practices quite well. Where we disturb the soil, we should change it to protecting the soil. From monocultures, which are not natural from nature at all, we should get rid of the monocultures and go to the diversity. And from the reductionist way of thinking and working and managing the whole nature and world, we should go to the holistic thinking. And this applies the regenerative paradigm also to any economic action that I'm involved. And I always say that in societies we should really start to think about how we're now doing everything in a conventional, destructive way. We are degenerating everything when we work or whatever we do at the moment. It's not enough to be sustainable or circular economy. You really need to be regenerative. And then when there was a question, how do I see women in the Baltic Sea work and this work that I do for the environment? I've been doing it for almost 15 years. And I have to say that the Baltic Sea is a field of women. So during these years that I work with the saving of the Baltic Sea, majority has been women. I know from the other organizations and other foundations, they are very women dominated. Our foundation, I'm the chair. We have 3 leading leading persons are women there, going extremely well. There's previous Helcom Secretary General, nowadays ICOS Chair, Anne-Kristin Rosendorff. There is our previous President Halonen, who worked with us a lot and really did a good job with the Baltic Sea by using her influence possibilities. For example, with the President of Russia. So there's many women, these are just few. I could put picture of almost 1,000 women here. But in the Baltic Sea, there's more women than there's more men in the saving part of it. There's also, in the EU, we have integrated to our work. She's a friend of mine, Anna-Kaisa Itkonen, who works as a spokesperson for climate and energy in the EU. And also very active in gender issues, has founded this Yes We Can network for the women and gender equality. And then the 2 ladies up there, economics and philosophy, those are the ones that are here in this slide, an example of women influencing the way that we think that and the way that we develop our societies, because they started in marginals. They started both the upper one, the economics, it's Neva Goodwin, who started as a radical feminist economist, and now has moved on to the ecological economics, trying to tackle the paradigm of externalities. Because everything that we do in society, the economics normally says that the price of the goods are here, and then we have some externalities. We have external price, which means the pollution of the Baltic Sea or climate change or, everything, the major effect is there in the externalities. And she has tried to build a theory where the externalities are in the theory. So very good work, and I'm influenced by her a little bit. Then there's the philosophy, Dr. Vandana Shiva, who many of you might know, already 25 years ago published about the ecofeminism, the core idea being that nature and women have always been having a second position in the world, in this reductionist world. It doesn't go so far from the truth, I think. I think that there's a point in that if we talk about system, how the earth is really managed. And nowadays she's very active in biodiversity and soil work. So these are just to mention a few that yes, there are majority of actors, women, in saving the Baltic Sea. As the last slide, I have to say that when I've been recruiting people and I've been working with the women saving the earth, this I think is the most realistic picture of the capacity female workers and female doers have. It's not a joke. You might think that it's a funny picture, but I don't think that way back they created this god just out of somewhere. I think it's just a picture of a woman. And this is how I see women, most women, when they're working. They have 10 hands and they can do so much. They're almost capable of doing almost anything. So I think this God was created just by looking at a few thousand years ago that, okay, well, there's one good woman there and very many behind her. So this is what I think about the Baltic Sea and the gender issues and what is the female voice and female handprint when saving the earth. Thank you.
Thank you. Very interesting thought, I think, and very true. Okay, we continue, and now we have next speaker, Riina Korsiainen from Finnish Agenda 2030 Youth Group.
Hello friends, it's so nice to meet you all here at Heureka. It brings me back to all those end of the year school trips when we would come here and see the science fair. So I hope that you have had time to look around what all the things this center has to offer. My name is Riina Korsiainen and I'm the vice chair of Finnish National Agenda 2030 Youth Group. I will tell you about the group in just a minute. The title, the rather poetic title I've given myself, You, Me and the Sea, I kind of wanted to just tell you about the feeling that I have, and that's that the sea and water kind of has more of a personal relationship with us, and it builds up more memories that gives us the power to act, maybe better than, for instance, climate activism. But let's see if I can talk about that in any reasonable way during my speak. This is our group, or at least most of it. This is the Agenda 2030 Youth Group. We were formed a couple of years ago because there was a study made that told that in the implementation of the United Nations Agenda 2030 for Sustainable Development, the voice of young people wasn't present. And at first, our Minister for the Environment at that time thought that it might be enough if we have just one person coming along to a delegation to New York once a year and that's enough. But I don't know who it was, but somebody was very wise and said that that's not really enough, and this group was formed. We have two main things that we are supposed to be doing. We work underneath the Commission for Sustainable Development, which is chaired by the Prime Minister, and our role is to guide the Commission for Sustainable Development to do more and just be the voice of young people in that commission. But we also do things like this, talk to general society and try to kind of tell our point of view. We aren't experts. We range from 16 to 28, so we have high school kids, and then we have people like me who are the senior members of youth group, because I'm already 27, so I have 1 year of legal young person who left in my life, and after that I'm no longer in our welcome to our group, because we really want to be a place where actual young people can kind of have real effect in the society, because we do have kind of a unique position where we can access political leaders in Finland at this point. But our other job is to talk to our peers, the young people in Finland, to tell them that they do have possibilities to make a change in society, be it in their own family, in their school, in their hobbies, or just in their personal life. So those are our two main things to do. And if you have any questions about the group, I'd be happy to tell you about them. But now to the actual topic. When I was thinking about what I would like to tell you about. The first thing that I thought was that, of course, all the kids in Finland have this inherent relationship with the Baltic Sea because we all lived next to the sea because Finland is such a small country. But then I realized that that's actually a lie. In this picture, it's taken in 2002. That's me. I'm 9 years old, and this picture was taken at the very moment when I saw the sea for the very first time. I had never seen the sea before my foster family took me on a cruise to Stockholm. And I have to admit that I didn't even realize that the water, that this big boat was any different from the water that I had been kind of accustomed to, which is right here somewhere, Lake Vesijärvi. I'm from Lahti, not that far away from here, but still far enough that I didn't really understand the concept of seas, oceans, and lakes and whatever. They were all just water to me. So even though today I'm talking about Baltic Sea action, in my heart, it's any action towards any water, the water that's nearest to you. It doesn't really have a difference for me if it's a lake, a river, a Baltic Sea, or the Atlantic Ocean. Water to me in this context is just water. But if we're zooming out, the kind of most natural concept for me to talking about Baltic Sea action is in the Sustainable Development Goal kind of realm. So we have these two goals, life below water and climate action. And you might first think that they are just two goals sitting next to each other in a bigger picture. But for instance, just like Sarah just told us, they are inherently linked together. And even if they weren't, I often think about this thing that our former president, who was a Baltic Sea activist like Sarah told, but also is still a really big influencer in the sustainable development practices, Mrs. Tarja Halonen. She says quite often that the sustainable development goals, they are like a house that has 17 different doors to that same house. And it doesn't really matter what door you use to get into that whole house, because you will get there eventually. It doesn't matter what you're doing, you're going towards the same goals. And I think that many things, and probably people all around the Baltic Sea region and further from us, have been doing just that. We've been entering this kind of space of environmental protection and even climate action through Baltic Sea action. And I believe that's because it's personal to us and it's close to us. It is the beaches that we used to swim all those endless summer days. It's the fishing that we did with our grandparents in our summer cottages. It's the sailing that we do with our friends and families. And it's the place where you can ice skate and walk on ice during winter, and it feels really weird that you're able to just walk to an island without using a boat. And yes, you have those personal memories of growing up near water and still being near water, and you can see it's something physical, it's near you. You see the changes also, to good, but often for worse. You see the trash in the beaches or even in the water. You see the lack of fish and other coastal animals, and you can see that the beach where you used to be able to swim, you no longer can do it because it's filled with blue-green algae. And because you can see those changes, you can feel them, you have that personal connection with that place, it gives us kind of a bigger motivation to act, and it's something easier to grapple with, especially with young people. And I think that this is something that we've been doing decades. Long before a 16-year-old Swedish girl formed the biggest, or at least one of the biggest youth-led movements in history, there were bigger and smaller groups of people trying to restore and protect their local waters. And be it kind of picking up the trash from the beach. There's, for instance, right now a campaign going on, which is youth-led. There are scouts and 4-H and I think Green Youth Party. They have a campaign to clean up the whole coastal area of Helsinki. There's a map where you can put yourself and your cleaning party, and then the map kind of gets greener and greener the more people clean up the coast. Or be it fundraisers, raising matches that kids' sports team are organizing everywhere, or whatever. Those are things that are easy to understand. It's easy to do. And they are all good. Because for me, the Baltic Sea action, it's climate action and vice versa. I don't think there's anything, or at least not much, that's kind of not in coherence with those two goals. Maybe some of those quite wild ideas of sucking the carbon out of the climate and storing it into the ocean. I'm not exactly sure if they are the best thing, but maybe you know better than me. But in the big picture, those two doors are going to the same house. So it doesn't matter if you're starting it with Baltic Sea action, you are probably doing also climate activism and vice versa. So that's why I'm kind of leading you with what I lead with most of the young people I talk with. And that's doing whatever you want to do, be it Baltic Sea action, climate activism, gender equality work. Do that, and do that with your heart, because you're probably doing more good than you're actually thinking that you're doing, because you're probably doing at least 5 of these at the same time. Thank you.
Thank you, Alina. I think your thoughts were exactly what I had thought about. And now we should have continue with our panel discussion. So please, all the panelists, come here. And Minna, I will give you the. You need to share this. Yeah.
Okay, ladies. Now it's not time just to hear some nice presentations on the Baltic Sea, but also to discuss what we can do together for the Baltic Sea as ladies, as part of the society. And before we start the panel discussion, we will present ourselves who we are. So I will start with myself. So I'm Minna Keinentoila, coming from Satakunta region, from Finland. And first of all, I'm a mother of 3 children, 1 boy and two daughters, and I'm a wife. So that's the future, the children, and that they will have a cleaner Baltic Sea. And for me also, my husband is with the children in Eureka. So that's how it goes with the gender equality. And for profession, my basic education is on environmental sciences, and I have done my PhD related for drinking water microbiology. And currently I work at Satakunta University of Applied Sciences as a research manager. And one key thing
that I want to mention that for me, the Baltic Sea is not just about sailing the sea, not just about sailing or business, but I see the Baltic Sea as a very holistic way. So Baltic Sea is not just about seawater quality, underwater life, or something, but it's actually a common task for all of us. We are coming from the countries around the Baltic Sea, and it affects our lives in so many ways. So that's something that I hope we are discussing today also, that when we discuss that saving the Baltic Sea, why we are saving the sea. So is it a technological aspect? Is it economical aspect? Is it a social aspect? And what's the driving force in that? So that's my driving force, is that my work is related very strongly on the Baltic Sea. And then from the laser life is that we have a sailing boat, so that's also the laser time of my life is related for the Baltic Sea. So that's my background very shortly, why I'm sharing this panel. And then we continue with the panelists that we get really to discuss. So we have Secretary General Dr. Anne-Mari Araskoski Enkart from John Nordman Foundation. So please.
Hello, it's really nice to be here today, and it has been a wonderful morning and afternoon with the different talks already, different workshops. I have a different background than Minna. I'm also a mother of 2 teenagers, so they are not here. And Helga, as you can imagine, we spent many years, many summers in Helga, but no, I have no idea where they are. My husband is certainly either cleaning the house or doing sports, so generally with the absolutely. I'm head of the John Nordman Foundation, 27 years old foundation with the mission of saving the Baltic Sea and its heritage. My own background is I'm a doctor, or I did my PhD for literature. I've done my business career, so to say, publishing both in Germany and in Finland. 5 years ago, I was asked to be the head of this foundation, and I thought, yes, it's time to learn something new. I have a wonderful team of environmental ecologists, marine biologists, and all those water engineers you need to do concrete projects, as well as I have humanists to do our cultural projects. What moves me, or why I did get interested in this kind of work? It's really, I've always thought good books do good. And reading is something you need in order to be able to be emphatic and really to feel and to learn. But at the same time, yes, I have been sailing my life. My father was very competitive. Actually, sailing was more, there's a sailing boat in front, and we started to fix in order to go by. So it's not always relaxing. But so I sang our boat, and I thought there needs to be something I can do for this beautiful, beautiful Baltic Sea, and there's more that does good than books. And in this work, I can now combine the both.
Okay, Sara presented yourself already, but you can say.
Do I have to say what motivates me?
Yes.
Well,
because that was my question.
Yes.
For Baltic Sea Action Group, why it has been existing for 10 years?
I feel that we have no choice. For me, it's everything that I do comes from values of nature or love, and they're always, I consider nature and love almost the same, but nature and value drive everything that I do, and I cannot bear the idea that I did not try to do everything that I can, with the risk that I would fail. I take the risk rather than not doing anything. So, yes.
Okay, and Riina, what is your motivation as a young person?
Well, I think it's helpful to add that even though I am in the youth group, my kind of a day job where I get my money to live is in the Prime Minister's Office Sustainable Development Team. So this is not just a hobby hobby for me anymore. It's something that I decided to kind of dedicate most of my time. So for me, it's nothing particular. There wasn't any particular thing that I felt compelled to. There wasn't anything like I need to say forest or waters or children or whatever. It's something more. It started from thoughts of what is justice and how we can who earns what, and started from all these different kind of more philosophical ideas, and then I landed in sustainable development and kind of the bigger picture where all these various things can go wrong, but we can also do our part in doing them right.
Okay. And then we have ambassador for the Baltic Sea Affairs, Helena Tuuri from Ministry of Foreign Affairs. So you can also introduce yourself a bit longer than the others. And what's your motivation?
Hello, everybody. I have been working in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs more than I want to mention here. Still pretty young though. And I also have kids, but they are grown-ups already, so they are not here. We have been here with them several times when they were younger. Also 2 dogs and a husband. This is my job at the moment, looking at everything what happens around Baltic Sea, not only about the state of the sea as such, but everything, economics and traffic and you name it. And this is being taken care of by many ministries and other organizations. So I try to get to know them and somehow kind of would be the one person who knows a little bit of everything that's happening, but always so much, so deeply. And what is my motivation other than this, that is my job is, I think what Sarah said, that wouldn't feel, I think that afterwards, being old really, so I wouldn't bear to think that I didn't even try.
Okay, thanks, Helena. And then last but not least, we have a project manager, Wende Heinola from Liras.
Hello everybody, I'm happy to be here also. I'm not an expert in Baltic Sea, so I'm so inspired to hear what Sarah has said. So my name is Wende, I'm from Tanzania, but I've been living in Finland for the past 13 years. And my background is in governance. I'm also a lawyer from Tanzania, and on here I work in the NIRA's International Consulting, where we manage different projects funded by Ministry for Foreign Affairs and also for EU. So actually, currently I'm managing the Global Climate Change Alliance program in Tanzania, which we are supporting various communities and building their capacity on how they can adapt and how they can mitigate the impact of climate change which they are feeling, including the cost of communities. And in addition, I'm also an author of children and young adult books about climate change, but in a fiction way, because also I was inspired by my work, and then more like thinking like, if I'm a child and somebody tell me about climate change, I'll be like, it's too grand concept, what does it mean really for me? So from there, I started to write fiction and stories, like really taking specific, what does climate change mean, if it's a drought, or like, or meaning like you have to move from your home because there's no water, or all this kind of thing. So that's how I came to be recommended to be on the panel, and I'm looking forward to hear all the discussion today. And my motivation, for example, in the Baltic Sea, I feel like we say there's a lot to be done, but I'm so inspired by what is really happening compared to other region and other ocean where the situation is even worse. There's a lot of scientific knowledge that has been accumulated for the past 4 decades. And I'm so inspired by the policy in Finland and in the Baltic Sea region. They are based on the scientific knowledge and what's really happening. So I feel like for the rest of the world outside Finland, we can look at what's happening in Baltic Sea and learn a lot from that. So that's my motivation. Thank you.
Thanks, Vende. I will sit down because I don't want to chair if we want to cooperate. But we have a couple of questions that the panelists have been prepared. You can't see them. I will use my cell phone to read them out for you. But just before we start discussions on these questions, so I think the key for today's discussion is the motivation. Why on earth we have to work for the Baltic Sea, around the Baltic Sea, and then what is the action? Personally, I think if you don't have the motivation, it's quite difficult to do whatever. And today our special focus will be on what women or women organizations can do. So personally, I'm also the chair lady of the Academic Ladies in Rauma. So that's one connection for me. So this event today has been perfect for me, that compiling the gender equality and the Baltic Sea. But let's start to discuss on the motivation and so on. Everybody can see the questions. And first of all, that the basic question when we discuss on the motivation is that what challenges we are having with the Baltic Sea. What are the real challenges? And we were discussing, those who have the children and family, that what is the future for the next generations? So what are your opinions on what is the challenge that we should solve for the next generation? Please.
Well, the largest challenge, as it actually has been already mentioned, is the eutrophication, which is now even enhanced, or actually the problem gets bigger because of the climate change, the warming up of the oceans and all that. And that also basically, if it does not stop the biodiversity below water, it really hinders the biodiversity. So it's all part of the same big problem, so we would have to start, not only start, but really continue dealing with it and cutting the eutrophication as fast as we can, and at the same time work with the climate actions against the climate change. For the future generation, I would say there's light, and that's what I share with the ladies here, absolutely. We have already shown on the Baltic Sea, not only on the political level that we have HELCOM and we have countries that are able to do commitments, and some countries have even actually really done their deal, some others haven't, but okay, there is political level understanding that things have to be done. And then we have actions and we have methods that have shown, for example, in the eastern part of Gulf of Finland, that we can really help the water ecosystem. So there is not only hope that we can lead for the next generation, but actually we can clean our what we have done or generations before us.
Could we say that actually the technology is existing already?
Yeah, lots of that technology is existing, but actually as the researchers are now doing great job actually even developing new methods, both on the land as well as in order to get into the problems which are below the water.
Yes, as the biggest problems are the eutrophication and climate change, and of course the threat for the biodiversity. So also it's not about just technologies, it's about policies. If there's something that is forbidden or will cause so much that will forbid it. So of course that's a very powerful way to influence. So it's not just technologies that we really need. We do need the policy. And I always say that if we, as you said, Baltic Sea is a good example, like a pilot example of solving environmental crisis, because it is surrounded by 14 different countries, or surrounded by 9, but affected by 14 countries, which are anyway quite, has a quite high level of standard in living and work functioning. So if we can't save this world, how would we ever solve any crisis in the world?
that's exactly what I was going to say. I think the biggest question, I don't think it might not be a problem, but that's the question on what we are leaving to the next generations to come is more, I think, cultural, and this idea of can we do anything about anything if we can't even keep our own front yard clean, and if we can't really clean the mess that we've created in our sea, then how can we kind of think that anybody else can solve these even bigger environmental crises in bigger oceans or in other ecosystems that are not in this in our immediate reach, because we are the biggest experts of Baltic Sea because it's our sea, so we should be able to fix it. So, for instance, what I think about from the point of view of young people, that's the thing that young people are saying is that we actually have to do our homework before we start shouting at other directions. So yeah, what she said.
There's not much left for me to see, of course, eutrophication and climate change are the biggest challenges. Okay? Microplastics, soil pollution. And we should be able to save our small sea because all the countries around it, we have the standard of living is quite high already everywhere around our sea. Yes, and what we should do, what kind of ladies, we should raise this awareness of, okay, talk to politicians, yes, what we do, but also kind of more general awareness to our teenagers, children, that everybody is responsible. So just don't leave your trash and your tobaccos and everything around on the seashore, or on the, if you leave them on the street. Over winter they will be in the Baltic Sea. So we should raise the sense of kind of that we are all responsible on what we do, and small things matter.
I agree, and I don't think I have much to add, but I feel like one of the biggest challenge of facing the Baltic Sea is that due to its nature of the way it is, it's just that the impact of warming, they will be felt much faster compared to Pacific or any other place. So in that case, I feel like there's a need to act a bit more and faster, because there's a sort of, as I said, like the other region can learn a lot of what's happening, but also that the Baltic Sea will be affected the most and much more faster. So that's the biggest motivation. And I feel like what's the viewpoint, what more we can do, I will go with a sort of storytelling. At least that's how I feel like it's I always say my motto is just the short distance you can travel is through a story. And in that, through a story, you can make connection, like really. So Baltic Sea is not just a Baltic Sea, but more like how does it connect into my life? Like you like on a daily basis, like how to show the interconnection is between the Baltic Sea and the welfare or well-being of humans. So we can tell more this kind of story and then try to break down what does it mean to the level that even a young child could actually understand, and not leave it like a more like a, you know how you have to be a graduate to understand all the concepts. But even if you are not that level, this is as she has said, this is important to all of us.
May I add? Because now, first Helena pointed out microplastics as one of the problems. It's important to remember our sea really suffers from various problems, but it's the biggest problem. The scientists would say it's the eutrophication, and it will be even worse because of the climate change. But microplastics are there are lots of the hazardous substances. I mean, there are lists of problems. If we would like to continue with that, we would be here tomorrow morning. So we have to name our problem and really work on that, because with working on the biggest, we can also help the biodiversity, we can work against the climate change, and we can also at the same time give hope because we can see that some things are done. And then what Wende said, you are totally right with the storytelling. That's why we also think Baltic Sea is more. It's really dangerous to think some things are only one thing. Because then you can, if you think about it, it's our cultural bridge, it's our historical bridge, it's our part of our identity. So it motivates much more people than if you start talking about it as a big story as it is. Then only those people who are interested in sailing or swimming or as waters as such. So that's, I think, something important we shouldn't forget, as well as the thing that we can actually also export those practices. We have been able to do here in collaboration, as well as the technical things. We have been able to see the advantages or the disadvantages. I mean, there are some things we have tried and realized that they didn't work, or they were too cost effective or not cost effective enough. Those kind of things I really think we should then export, and I think there is a danger of, Helena, you would know better because you work even more than Sarah, you both work more with the political level, that politicians love to be in spotlight and with the media and to go immediately to the big oceans because plastic is now the thing. But actually, our results and the collaboration and techniques, they should be starting to bring out and export, I think.
Just one question still, that it seems that we have the science, we know the situation with the Baltic Sea quality, and on the other hand, we have these technologies for how to solve. But why we don't have the change yet? So why? My basic question, that's what I've been thinking so much of. Who is the person who should save the Baltic Sea? Of course, everybody. But why we don't see the difference? Or is the future brighter? Should we just wait?
Well, we have.
Or how do we just speed up?
If you take a look at the big scale from the, let's say, 50s, 60s, we have been managing to reduce the eutrophication. But as said, the climate change will bring it back or make it stronger again. So we have had enhancements here. And also, I've been working also there in the eastern part of the Baltic Sea. So we've had the good things and going forward. But then some parts do not go forward in the society if we use hazardous substances, the chemicalization of the whole society, and then we come to the responsibility of also one person. The chemicalization is in the soil, it's in the Baltic Sea, it's everywhere, and that's something that has not gone forward. But it's not just a question of the Baltic Sea, it's the whole society and whole world, I think. But so we have had good things happening. Why is the change always so slow? Well, everyone who has tried to make a change in any issue knows why it's so slow. You first need to have the critical mass. It takes about, someone just researched it takes about 30 years to push forward some kind of opinion change, and that's many years. So it's always, who needs to be the one that saves the Baltic Sea? There's no one. We need the politicians, we need the NGO sectors, we need the officers, we need all the very grassroots level, we need companies, we need every part that we need to make a systemic change. But unfortunately, if you don't have a strict forbidden thing, then you can't really make a change. But nowadays, with the possibility with one person and with the social media and to raise awareness on something, I'll go back to the raising awareness, is that we can speed up the change, I think. If you take any other, let's say, child labor or some kind of thing that we want to enhance and we want to make better in the society. So there are, I think, nowadays possibilities that might speed up a little bit.
Yeah, I think that it's a race against ourselves. Whenever we figure a solution to one problem, 5 new problems arise, and most of those problems are do to ourselves because we figure out some new thing to make our life seemingly better, but then we don't really think about the other consequences that this new and improved thing might happen because of that seemingly nice new solution to an old problem.
Again, I need to echo what the others already said, that a lot has been done during decades, so the situation would be much, much worse if so much work wouldn't have taken place. But climate change especially, it's going to make it so much worse, so we have to run quicker still all the time.
I agree with what also others have said, and it's true that at Baltic Sea you feel it is local, but the problem that is affecting is actually global. It's not only what Finland can do, but also it's at the level of others as well, like how sea is becoming warmer or warming. That is not because only of Finland, but that's why it can feel like slow. But I also agree that a lot has been done already to also reverse some of the bad trade that was happening from the beginning.
And if I raise it to the little bit to the philosophical level, I think the big problem is that we run the world with some kind of illusion of effectiveness, that we really think that we're so effective with all these systems, and then we go to the economic term externalities, we think that this is effectivity, and then there's these externalities, which is the destroying nature or whatever it is. So at some point we should think about what is really effective, because this is not what we're doing in the world at the moment.
And about your a bit sad second question, I would like to even point out and even ask Riina. We have noticed, and I have personally noticed that the youth, they have, thanks for all of us probably, or thanks for I don't know whom, they have different values. Consuming is not the only pleasure they have actually, and they really they already now are building up different lives. They are not building up careers. They are not working for getting this and that car and the summer cottage and this and that. So there's something happening already with those between 15 and 20. I would say Riina would know much better. So I would say we have to hurry up, but they are certainly working for a different world altogether. And there is also great pressure coming, and it's not difficult to explain to them, eat the Baltic sea fish if it's sustainably fished, because it's good for you and it's really good for the ocean. They do it. It's much harder to convince ourselves, because they have some bream and broach have so many fish bowls and all that. So I would say there's lots of been done, and there's a huge potential of hope and workers there.
So is it actually that we are not leaving a heritage, but actually we can learn from the youngsters?
Absolutely. I mean, not only from today, but our own children here, they actually, even some people who are now hiring summer workers, the first question are most of the time, what are your values? What are the company values? And second question is, what are you actually aiming for, and what are you doing for the environment? Earlier they would have been, what can I get for salary and how long working hours? So there's a huge change there.
And if I could add there as well, that I agree with what you're saying, and it really, I don't think the legacy that we are leaving to the new generation is more of hopelessness. Despite that our lifestyle was very sustainable, and they are very sustainable this way, they're very conscious, but we are also leaving a lot of knowledge in a way that they are not starting from scratch, but there's a lot of studies and all that, so they can go on and continue to do work to sort of reverse what all the problem that we are facing. And I feel like this, as we are working with policy and at high level, we are thinking about bottom down, but then also bottom up approach also will help in this case to also have the youth also driving the agenda, and then to have the policy also getting across is much more sustainable.
Yes, young people will come and save the planet, they say. And it is true that there is ever-growing amount of young people who are truly active and thinking, and not just being in the streets and being kind of more politically active than kids were like a decade ago, but actually kind of thinking about how I can build my life to be more sustainable, because we, like you said, we don't yet have those things where we are not giving up on anything. But at the same time, I think it is important to remember that it's not like that all young people are just ready to kind of forget all the things that we've been promised, because we've been raised to believe that when you go to school, you study and you study and study, and then you will get a good job, and you will get a good job because you want these same things as your parents had. You will have that house and a car and a dog and 2.7 kids or whatever. And now all of a sudden the message is completely opposite. That no, you can't want these things because they are bad. You have to kind of have this amazing set of imaginary worlds to kind of think of what success might then look like if you can't want those material things anymore. And I do think that many kids do want material goods. They do want those things because we've been conditionalized to see that that's what success looks like, and we've been conditionalized that you have to have more than the previous generation had in order to be successful, and also to keep the economy going you have to grow. So it is a lot of pressure to put on the younger people to not only say that you have to save the planet, but also you have to change the meaning of what a good life is. So I do think that we need some help from our parents to kind of guide us to not want those things anymore.
Okay, it seems that it's the generation below you that are already ready to pay. And you are right, and at least in Finland, it's already now that the generation younger than me, they are not certainly earning as much as my generation is. So it's the how to say, if you think about only in money ways, yes, the future is not so nice. But if you really think about in other ways, there is this kind of a trend of savoring free time, and that's a wonderful new value. And how much free time I have, then it doesn't seem so bad that the materialism or the money situation is not good. But you are right, we have to start the educational work differently.
I think the generation older than 15, I mean the grown-ups, young grown-ups, we should kind of help them to believe in future, because I think it has something to do with the fact that we have so little babies in Finland. So young people don't kind of trust that they won't be unemployed, and they don't feel sure of anything. So this is, I think, part of the problem, that they don't see how the future will look in their own life, of the environment, everything. So we should kind of tell more strongly that yes, we have big problems, there's climate change and things, but still there is hope, and when you are active, work together, then hope becomes bigger. So don't give up.
So from hope, the other question we have is that what we can do together, especially as this is the Graduate Women 2019 conference. So what can women do together, locally, regionally, nationally, and cross-border, possibly in Baltic? What are your, or is there a special role that the women has to take? or can we take that kind of special role on this issue?
Well, as Sarah already mentioned, since our foundation has this gender equality problem on the other side, we have from our 16 people, we have 2 men. So I have problems to answer this gender thing because I think it's actually not a gender thing, and I totally think women are so capable, and we need really capable people in researchers, I mean in science, as well as in NGOs, as well as in, around Baltic Sea in the authorities and in industry. So, and women are really good in getting things really done and moving. Some men are too, but they have then one thing, I would say, my experience is they have one thing and then they get that done. Women can get more things done, perhaps it's your new goddess picture. So we should do as much as we can because we are in a hurry with the Baltic Sea. There are good methods to be done in our big projects, reducing the nutrients. There are huge potential in reducing the nutrients from the agriculture. Sarah was mentioning, and in Finland we are doing lots of these kind of methods already. We should get these methods done in Sweden or Poland or around the sea much more. We can all eat more sustainably fished Baltic Sea fish, and that's one thing that really helps the Baltic Sea immediately. Eat more fish and less meat. Or if you eat meat, eat really well produced meat locally. And what else? I would say worrying doesn't save the Baltic Sea really. Look around, ask good questions, and then do some things really well. But worrying, we are going to save the sea. It's already impartially done, and we have such good organizations, such good methods. We are going to do that.
Yes, talking about what women networks can do is of course completely different if we think about here in Finland and around the Baltic Sea than if we think about, for example, in Africa, where you could say that if we try to affect the farming, the small-scale farming, has a lot to do with women. So, but here in the Baltic Sea, I think what we can do as a women network, and first is to raise awareness. You've all heard what we presented today, and we've been talking about this. So always we raise awareness, whether it's you all have good connections and good networks. So just keep the word, put it forward. And then another thing is that most of the people, I think, in our foundation, we haven't met anyone who hasn't been able to do something for the Baltic Sea, whether it's directly or indirectly. You can help the helpers or you can help it directly with the work. And for example, in the work or in other aspects of life, I think that people should not how should I say, hesitate to try how much power do they have. Because one might have a lot of power in the work if you just persistently take the Baltic Sea to the issue and start thinking that what could we do here in our work for this. And of course that's a question of networks as well. If you spread the word and that goes forward, so it might have a good impact.
I guess the size that should be increase the knowledge of the men. Because as you saw your presentation, that female are very active on saving the Baltic Sea.
Yeah, very active. There's also men. We should raise awareness or raise knowledge of all the people, actually. I can't say, of course, there's different areas, maybe, for example, I work also in the energy sector, so that's loaded with men, so that's a different thing. But I think we should raise awareness of everyone. Because you never know who's the single person who makes a difference in one company or in some school or in some other unity.
I would say that what women and maybe young people can do is in the same format as Sara said, and what Wenda is doing is kind of making things more personal, because yes, we have the scientific knowledge, and we have economic numbers, but that doesn't make anybody act really. Before it's something personal, you don't have big enough motivation to change your lifestyles, because that's something that yes, everybody can do. Everybody can start eating more fish except if they're definitely allergic to it. But you kind of have to have somebody to teach you how to make the fish dishes, because it might be a weird thing for people nowadays to eat fish from Baltic Sea, because we've been eating salmon from faraway seas so many years. So now somebody's telling us you have to eat sarki. I don't know what that's in English. So making it kind of easier to approach and more personal. That's something that I do believe that women are exceptionally good, is kind of making it into your everyday life, and kind of explaining things in more easy to understand terms.
Yes, I agree. It's important to influence people and see things from a kind of grassroots level, so everybody can understand what I can do, and really can kind of combine forces with youngsters, especially those active ones. Not everybody, those of youngs are so active, but there are a lot more and more, so we could kind of combine forces and try to explain the rest of what everybody can do. And that you must be kind of aware of the importance of these things. Although you have careers, it doesn't mean that you have to choose. Like before, we had to explain that you don't have to choose between family and working life. Now it's self-evident that you can have both. Now we need to explain that you don't have to choose between having a kind of decent work and career, and also kind of take care of you, Baltic Sea and environment as well.
What everybody have said, and then again, but all of us cannot be out there selling the Baltic Sea. But so I would say like raising awareness and then also joining the cause. So if you are not yourself out there, but there's a lot of organizations what Sarah is doing and others as well. So support those causes in a way to kind of enable them to go out there and make all the difference. So there's something for everybody to do.
We get the audience also to part of this discussion, and I want to raise a question for all of you, that who has made your promise for the Baltic Sea? So do you have some personal promise how you will work for the Baltic? I have one. My personal promise is that I'm eating less meat, and that's something that I hope everybody here would think about. What is your personal promise for the Baltic Sea? Of course, you can say that you save the world, you stop the climate change, but I think it starts from your personal commitment and your personal thoughts.
But there's a handy-dandy tool to kind of calculate your Baltic Sea footprint, and it's pretty extensive, the way it shows all kinds of different aspects in our everyday life and what kind of influences they have in the Baltic Sea. I think that was really eye-opening, at least for me, because I've done all these carbon calculators, but then it kind of shows the relationship between these two things. Like, yes, most of the things that are bad for the climate are bad for the Baltic Sea, but some are especially bad for the Baltic Sea, and that was really, really good information for me, at least.
And I think the basic idea, which is very familiar maybe to the previous generation, my mother, for example, is the reduce, do not consume so much, do not use so much new, reduce, reuse. It's just, for most of us, it's just a common sense, but for somehow in this mad world, we just forgot that for a little change. So it's, if you want to really help the Baltic Sea and the climate and the biodiversity, so just the basic ideas. Less and reuse and reduce. Yeah.
I just want to tell where you can find the calculator Rina mentioned, because our foundation has been working or doing it with the Finnish Environmental Center and Suke and Luke together. So you can find it either on our pages, nurmisen.fi, Itämeren laskuri, or at the Helsingin Sanomat pages with Itämeri laskuri. But that's only for Finland, because it's really unbelievable data for each and one of us living in Finland with our wastewater plants and our fields and whatever, and then our hobbies and all that. There were some Swedish people who wanted also to use that and asked us if we could translate it, and we said translation would not be the problem, but data is based on Finland, so you would have to do the same unbelievable work for Sweden or any other countries. But that's, I think, also it's helpful to see what really matters, and it's not necessarily huge things, but there are some things that are bigger than others.
Yeah, so now audience comments, aspects.
We're talking here about what the younger generations and the women can do. We have a good example from Sweden. Greta Thunberg has mobilized millions of young people of both genders into climate change problems. And I think it's a good example. Not that everybody can raise awareness like she has done, but awareness raising is really a very important part in this. And this is awareness of what is happening, but also awareness of what you can do. That you can do, you can change your goals. You talked here about everybody wants to have economic growth. In fact, I don't believe that any longer. So, but raising awareness of opportunities, because otherwise we get depressed, all of us, if you just talk about how the climate is changing and all the threats of storms and fires and everything that will come over us. No, there must be an awareness of that we can do it. That's my
Really nice comment also. Yes, thank you for all of you. I would like to ask maybe 2 questions, if not too much, and concerning the very grassroots level. I would like to see or hear your point of view about the younger generation of the farmers. So have you seen any changes in their attitudes or maybe even farmer identities during your work in the field? Maybe Sarah's area.
Yes, we train over 100 farmers, and a good deal of them are young ones, of course, because they're quite motivated. Yes, their identity is really, or how they express it is that they want to be part of this work because they want to be proud of what they do in the agriculture, and they want to be proud of how they manage their land so that it's regenerative, that it really, at the same time while producing food, it would be increasing the biodiversity and the carbon storage. They want to be part of the solution. So that's a really big thing, and that is what voice we are trying to bring forward, that this is important for the farmers. And what is crucial in the project is the education. So it's science and farmers educating each other, also farmers educating the scientists, what to research, that it's relevant, and the researchers then of course sharing knowledge to the farmers, but also peer-to-peer education, that farmers train farmers, which is a very effective way of learning. But yes, the young farmers' identity is very much connected to the climate change, the Baltic Sea, and the overall impacts to the nature. And someone even said that
I would like my kid to be very proudly saying in the school that yes, my dad or mom is a farmer and actually binding carbon to the soil for the 10 urban families, because not everyone has land what they can use. So we're doing that for 10 families. That would be a proud thing that you can tell that I'm producing food and these services for the ecosystem.
One could only hope that also the media would bring up these stories more open to.
Yes, that's a good way to affect that. If there's media representatives here, of course you are gatekeepers in all these Baltic Sea issues that we've been talking about. You have to bring forward those that make the change and give examples, because that is really, really effective. If you talk about the hope, or if you talk about the solutions, if you talk about those who really have made a change, so that we've also noticed in our work, and probably everyone has noticed that it's really effective.
Because quite often the culture in media and also generally the discussion on politics is this blame and shame.
Yes.
Instead of discussing on the issues and the solutions. But maybe the next step further is do not blame and shame, but educate and work together.
And do we have time? Yes. Just something that I have been thinking about is this narrative of the Baltic Sea protection, and how does it reach the people living in the rural areas and the watershed areas. I'm not sure if this watershed means really English in Valuma, but yes, if you have some points of view on this. Thank you.
Yes, and narratives, of course, as I said, Baltic Sea is the most important, as you pointed out, it's the most important who see it. But then it's the other water bodies which really are important to the other ones, but they also, there are the watershed, or it will eventually end up to the Baltic Sea. So it doesn't really matter if you're interested in your nearby river or nearby lake or the Baltic Sea, because it will end up to the same Baltic Sea anyway. The
watershed.
Yes, it's a maybe. Yeah. Okay, I'm thinking about the term, but let's use the watershed. That is very big in the Baltic Sea. So it involves many, many, many people. So for sure, some people living maybe more distant from the Baltic Sea are not so interested in that. Also, you can see that in countries which maybe are facing towards Southern Europe, but still affect the Baltic Sea, which is sort of like in the north or in their back. So yeah, there's a great variation of it.
But I think, Elina, this was a very good question. How well known is the Baltic Sea narrative, or how connected do you feel with it? Because it can be that you are very connected locally at your local town or sea or lake, in our cases, but you don't think that this is actually basically this lake has also a river running to the Baltic Sea, and whatever we do here affects also the Baltic Sea, and in some cases the southern parts of the Baltic Sea. I think that's really interesting, and that's something we could here in Finland point out more, because as somebody said, Finland is quite a small country, and we have a very, very strong identity of a clean nature, but living in one of the biggest environmental problems called Baltic Sea. So that might be a chance, so that the people who don't sail on the Baltic Sea would really feel connected and have the sense of urgency. Hey, we have cleaned our own lakes, we can certainly clean our own sea. I mean, together with the Swedes and all the others, it should be easy.
Yeah, it's the catchment area. Now I remember catchment area. I always keep, when I present the case of Baltic Sea to a non-Baltic Sea person, I always say, as someone pointed out here nicely, is that Baltic Sea is such a fragile area because it has a very little water and very many people living in the catchment area. So I once calculated while sailing that how many people should be living
around the Mediterranean, which is quite well known. So around the Mediterranean, in order it to be under same pressure as the Baltic Sea is. So I calculated the water mass, the volume of the water in Baltic Sea and in Mediterranean, and also the people needed to burden it. So there should be 14 billion people living around the Mediterranean in order for that to be under same pressure than the Baltic Sea is at the moment with the 90 million people living around it. It's such a shallow water.
Thank you. Any more questions?
Yeah, I think that's a good point to end for this panel discussion that Baltic Sea is unique with 90 million people with many different activities, but we have hope and the change is coming. We have to make the change. So thank you for our panelists and the work continues.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. We had two great keynote speakers, so we want to give you a little gift. For all the panelists here, we have given the gift for Helcom Ulkomaan Apu by a profession to a woman. Was that correct? Kind of translated correctly, so on under your name. So.
Thank you.
And one thing I have too many. I'm multitasking, but I forgot to mention that these books which we have given to our speakers, they were donated by Jon Norminen's Foundation. So thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah. Okay, I think that we are almost in the end. Firstly, I would like to thank you, everybody, before I forget that, because it seems that my friends are already going somewhere to have dinner later. One thing I would like to remind, I should have done that, of course, in the morning, but because I'm so pressed in Twitter, I have found that I have never tweeted, but I know that there are trolls here, and so you can follow discussions and continue also discussions in Twitter. There's a hashtag Crackhead in 2019, if I remember right. Yes, so please be active there also. Then, as a summary, I think that I would like to ask all of you that what are your thoughts? What kind of thoughts you have after today's discussions? So I think it would be good to have a little bit open discussion as a closing. So anybody?
In Sweden, we are going to have next conference, and we are discussing between us, but it would be very nice to hear from you if you have any ideas.
Must be very close.
Sorry, should I repeat myself? Yeah. Okay. In Sweden, we are doing the next conference in 3 years' time. And I think it would be a good idea to have you all given the opportunity to have an idea for what we should do. Because we think also ourselves, but if you can give us a hint of what you would like to listen to and do next time.
Okay, any ideas? Because I think that we are going to discuss the same thing also tomorrow when we are having our morning session. So
I would like to tell you thank you for the invitation from Russia. We plan to come here. There were
8 of us who plan to come here, but because due to job problems and kids problems, only the 2 of us finally were able to come. So we will plan to come to Sweden in 2 years. I think 20 of us, then maybe 10 of us would be able to go. But thank you very much. Our discussions were very useful for us and were very interesting. And I hope that as a result of this conference, will be a couple of projects, international projects, which will collaborate all our activities. Thank you.
Anybody else? I think it has been quite a long active day for all of us. So, yeah, I was thinking myself that listening these speeches, there are differences in the different countries and nationalities, but we have quite a lot also similarities. And I think that we can do and we should continue our cooperation in these topics and spread the message out over and over again, because I think that it's the only way to keep up discussions. I think words are one of the most powerful tools to make progress in this area. There's still work needed, but truly women organizations, NGOs, they can have power to make things change. And like in these last panel discussions, the message was that women and young women, they can do the change the future, and I like to end our session to thought or hope that let's do not forget that. Thank you.